RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, growing legacies.
Hello and welcome to Bloomberg Quint. We have with us the Managing Director and the Group Chairman of Thomas Cook, Madhavan Menon, with us. Remember, Thomas Cook reported its first quarter number yesterday, and it was a steady quarter for the company. And so my first question to you is, your travel-related segment registered a double-digit growth in the quarter went by. What has been the key factors at play? Can you please share it with us?
Yeah, so let me just take a couple of steps back and explain our results. First of all, I think at a consolidated level, you cannot compare the results of this quarter to Q1 a year ago, 18, 18. I think it's important to recognize that Quest, which used to get fully consolidated into our accounts a year ago, today is treated as an associate, and therefore we only account for an amount that represents the fraction of our ownership in the company. Secondly, we made several acquisitions during the second half of calendar year 17, all of which are just beginning to kick in and are getting turned around. However, I think it's important that on a comparable basis, if you look at the consolidated numbers, you'll see that our revenues have actually grown 10%. This is on the back of strong retail demand, which you referred to, that we have witnessed across our travel segments. So let's take the Thomas Cook standalone results, which very clearly reflects this. Look at it quarter on quarter. Our profitability has grown by 36% on the back of a couple of things. We've seen retail demand across all our travel and travel-related segments grow. So if you look at the forward bookings in just the leisure segment, it's grown by 14%. If you look at the demand that we've witnessed in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, we've actually seen our bookings grow by 45%. If you come to the financial services segment, we look at the retail, the billings on our card from a year ago, we have a 19% growth. On the back of this, we've also seen our margins grow by more than 1% to 6.6%, and I think that's primarily driven by better yield management, as well as using technology in terms of improving the way we manage our leads. So I think overall it has been a good quarter, and my expectation is that we expect it to continue into quarter 2 financial 18 and 19, and sort of tail off towards the third quarter.
Sure, sir. Speaking about your holiday business, that is Sterling Holiday Resorts, what has been the ARR for this quarter, and do you see further room for growth in ARR going ahead?
So I think let's step back in terms of Sterling. First of all, this quarter has seen a lot of activity on both their P&L and balance sheet, where due to an introduction of a new accounting standard by the institute called Ind AS 15, which requires them to amortize their revenues equally over the life of the product. As a result of which, we've had to take a write down in our revenues, and this will now become deferred income. So you will actually see the reversal of this write down happening over the next couple of years. Having said that, we have still seen our holiday business grow. The vacation ownership business did slow down because we were trying to manage both the GST as well as the accounting standard, and therefore saw that it was we would require a couple of quarters to come up with new products that will sort of align with the change situation. Now, having said that, I think the ARR, the average room rates from a year ago have grown. This is on the back of demand. Now, if you look at demand, and this is validated by the fact that even at Thomas Cook, we saw our domestic business turn profitable in this quarter. And therefore, my expectation is that if domestic demand continues the way it is, and given that adding new rooms does take some time, that there is some room left for the ARRs to go up. But I appreciate the point that we can't just keep raising our average room rates, because we could dampen demand by just continuing to do that year on year. So my expectation is that it will peak at some point of time and stabilize rather than just continuous growth in the average room rates.
Company has approved corporate restructuring program in the month of April. Can you tell us a timeline as to when will this be effective, and also how the company's focus will shift from their travel related business to the 4 verticals that are mentioned in the press release, sir?
Okay. So you will appreciate that the restructuring requires regulatory approval, which is outside our scope of control. Our expectation is that April 2019 is when the regulators would have approved the entire process. I do admit that it is a bit complicated, but I think what is important to recognize here is that we will spin off Quest. Our primary focus will be the verticals that are travel related, and it will reflect the fact that Thomas Cook as a standalone is a profitable business, and which will have a higher value than what is ascribed by the market to it today. So I think it's important we recognize that, and that is going to reflect itself over several quarters and maybe over the next 2 years going forward. Travel will continue to be our primary focus, but having said that, you'll appreciate we are a holding company, we are acquisitive in nature, and the OFS has thrown up more cash for us to go out and make acquisitions. So if we see something that meets our requirements and is not necessarily just purely travel related, we will have a look at it.
Sure. Sir, lastly, can you leave us with some margin guidance for the current fiscal year?
Yeah. So if you look at the margins over this quarter versus a quarter a year ago, our margins have grown by approximately 1.3%. This is on the back of far better yield management in the holiday business as well as in the foreign exchange business. My expectation is that we've always believed in stable margins, and these margins are expected to continue over the rest of the year.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for speaking to Bloomberg Quint. It was pleasure speaking to you. So that was the management of Thomas Cook, confident about growing their travel-related businesses post the restructuring that the company has taken up in the month of April, and also confident about growing their margins in the current fiscal year. Thank you so much for watching.